Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Juli and I'm a fantasy artist and oil painter. This video is kind of scary to make because today I'm gonna be brutally honest about my own thoughts and struggles as a neurodivergent artist, content creator and small business owner. I gotta admit I had a totally different plan for this week's video, but the cycle continues. My planned painting was too ambitious and I couldn't finish it in time and I felt like an absolute failure. But then I thought, wait, this feeling is also part of my artistic journey, and feeling like a failure and feeling like I'm not working hard enough is also something that a lot of artists struggle with. So today I'm going deep into my own medical history with therapy and how my mental health issues impact my day-to-day life as an artist trying to juggle everything on her own. If you watched my last videos, you know that I already talked about some of my thoughts and struggles, because when I'm filming a studio vlog, I'm usually filming 3 to 5 days a week. And of course my symptoms are worse on certain days where I can't work as much as I want to, and my mental state is hard to deal with. By talking about this, I want to bring awareness to the topic of neurodiversity and mental health, and maybe even help some of you who struggle with the same things to feel seen and heard. We're all doing this for the first time, and I'm happy if my words make you feel less alone. I'm talking about my own experiences, so I'm mainly going to talk about the autism spectrum, ADHD and BPD, as well as depression and anxiety as accompanying factors. I've struggled with my mental health since forever. Even in my childhood, I always felt like I wasn't fitting in with the other children. I always felt like an alien from another planet. I didn't really know how to make friends. I also missed a lot of social cues and signals, but I was lucky that others were open to meet after school and play with me. But in hindsight, I was the shy, weird kid sitting in the corner for hours alone, drawing, while the other children were outside playing. And that feeling never really went away. Even to this day, I still feel like an alien around certain people. I always make jokes that all of my friends are also neurodivergent, but it's a pattern. We attract each other like moths and light. In 2022, I got diagnosed with BPD, which is short for borderline personality disorder, which was kind of a heavy diagnosis for me at first, but then I was just happy to finally have an answer for all of my problems. No. I was very lucky to get a spot with a therapist fairly quickly, so shortly after my diagnosis I started therapy, which lasted for about 1.5 years. I did group therapy as well as private face-to-face sessions with my therapist, and at the beginning I had 3 therapy sessions a week. 1 group session and 2 private sessions, which I was so grateful for because I definitely needed it at that time. The first 10 months of 2023 were a disaster for me mentally. During therapy I learned how to regulate myself and live with my BPD, which later revealed that what I actually needed help with was something completely else, but I couldn't explain what it was. So I listed a bunch of symptoms and did a bunch of research and asked my therapist if there's a chance that I'm on the autism spectrum or have ADHD or both. And she told me that the overlap between autism, ADHD and BPD is actually really high, and that a lot of patients who struggle with one disorder on the spectrum also struggle with another disorder on the spectrum, and that the chance that I'm one of these people is very high. But since getting an official diagnosis for ADHD and autism, especially as an adult and woman, is a whole nother story, and because my therapy was focused on my BPD, we didn't go more into it. Of course, I still continued to heavily educate myself on this topic because I thought that throwing around self-diagnoses without doing extensive research just isn't helping anybody. But yeah, in conclusion, I went to therapy for about 1.5 years. I'm kind of aware of what my brain does and why, or at least I try to understand it. And now let's get to the tea. The first thing that's breaking my neck every week, every day almost, is executive dysfunction. For me, this looks like being absolutely unable to do stuff. It is knowing that you have to do a certain task and that it's really important that you do that task, but your brain just won't let you. Being completely unable to start or finish tasks. makes me feel so bad about myself, and it's very frustrating as an artist, especially as a content creator who tries to run an art business all by herself. But since my art is also my hyperfixation, I also have phases where I paint for hours and hours and hours on end and struggle to remember basic tasks like hygiene, eating, sleeping, going to the toilet, drinking water, etc, etc. Luckily, my boyfriend is very supportive and takes care of most of the household tasks, so I can focus on my art and my general well-being. I also need routines, but I struggle to actually follow them because I just forget they exist.
Oftentimes my plans are too ambitious and I struggle with emotional dysregulation as soon as my plans don't work out.
For me, this can look like sudden outbursts of frustration or crying, and sometimes it can get really bad with having complete meltdowns, and I also struggled with self-harm in the past because I just couldn't regulate myself. Change of plans can also be distressing, but it depends on the situation. Sometimes I really like others to make decisions for me, especially mundane things like what do we eat today or which bus are we taking. I'm just very grateful if others are taking care of these things, and I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have an answer. If someone asks me what do we eat today, bro, I don't know. Another thing that contributes to that is time blindness. I'm not good at estimating how long a project will take, and I usually take way longer than I plan out for myself and get frustrated if something takes too long. For example, YouTube. Wednesday is my upload day, so if a video comes a day late, I feel like an absolute failure, like I'm the worst person on earth. I have an intense focus on my interests, but I forget basic stuff like paperwork, doctor's appointments, taking my medication, stuff like this, which is also a huge struggle. And sometimes I struggle with unhealthy coping mechanisms such as smoking or starving, or both. I also struggle with sensory sensitivity and sensory overload, especially very sudden and loud sounds. I flinch every time there's a loud sound. People always say, oh my god, you get scared so easily. Yeah, I'm scared of loud sounds. Or for example, lights. We never use the big light, the ceiling light, in our apartment. The only time that I'm using a very bright light is when I'm filming. But other than that, we have small lamps everywhere, so we have lots of indirect light. Because I hate the big light. We never ever use the big light. Yet, contradictory, I enjoy concerts and festivals sometimes. Even though at my last big show I had a panic attack, so sometimes. I also can't stand some food or fabric textures. For example, cornflakes that have been soaked in milk for a good 5 to 10 minutes. No. If I make cornflakes for myself, I have to eat them while they are still crispy, because as soon as they get... No. Sensory overload can lead to meltdowns and shutdowns, and I tend to be non-verbal during meltdowns, which makes communication really hard because I can't talk about what's happening. I do lots of stimming to help me regulate my nervous system, which can look a lot of different ways. I use objects for stimming. For example, I have an anxiety ring that can be rotated. This necklace is also a nice example because this stone is loose in this little net and I can just move it around in there, and it's a very nice fidget toy that I play around with a lot. I'm also very sensory seeking when it comes to stimming, so everything that revolves perfumes, essential oils, candles, incense, I love it. I use it to calm my nervous system. I also crave visual stimulation because I just like looking at stuff that brings me joy, and I also collect lots of different things. For example, crystals, Magic the Gathering cards, frogs in all forms and shapes, Pokemon stuff, Nintendo stuff in general, and many more that I just can't think of right now at the top of my head, but I collect lots of random stuff. As I already talked about in the beginning, one of my accompanying symptoms is anxiety, especially social anxiety, which basically makes everything that revolves around leaving the house very, very, very difficult for me. I'm extremely observant, especially when I'm outside. It feels like my nervous system is just on rapid fire all the time. I often feel like, and I've always done this for my entire life, I can't remember a time where I didn't do this, but I feel like I always study how other people interact so I can copy that and appear more normal. Or sometimes when I know that I have an important conversation coming up, I practice and script the conversation ahead of time because it just gives me so much anxiety and I'm just so scared of embarrassing myself. I'm just overthinking every single step I take. For example, this video is also scripted, and if I don't like a certain shot because my facial expressions or body language is off, I will stop the camera, practice in front of the mirror and shoot it again, and then review the footage to see if it was okay and then continue filming. For example, I talk with my hands a lot. I talk with my whole body. Sometimes I'm making weird facial expressions, and sometimes when it's too much for me, I need to record the same sentence multiple times. Some people say I appear childlike in the way I talk and act, and based on my special interests. But I don't take that as an insult anymore. Instead, I want to heal and embrace my inner child and keep it alive as long as possible. I also have problems with maintaining eye contact. I can do it because I've practiced it for years and years and years, but it's always a conscious activity. It causes anxiety, and I noticed that sometimes I can't follow conversations because I'm just too distracted by maintaining eye contact and then looking away again, and then maintaining eye contact and then looking away and then looking at the eyes and then looking away. And I'm just so focused on appearing normal that I don't listen to what the person is actually saying to me. And I struggle with understanding sarcasm a lot because I generally just believe people when they tell me something for the first time. And I take a lot of things literally. One of my biggest struggles in group situations is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. This means that I have disproportional emotional reactions to getting rejected, to a point where I feel like the worst person ever alive. Everyone hates me, nobody wants to be friends with me whatsoever. I feel like living on survival mode or fight or flight mode all of the time, while everyone around me is just existing and I'm just never really fitting in. This huge package of anxiety mixed with masking my autistic traits and the stress my body went through last year were the main reasons why I had to stop tattooing for the moment. At this point, I want to talk about autistic burnout real quick, which is what forced me to take a break a few months ago. The mental stress turned into horrible stomach infections. I got weaker every day. I woke up to panic attacks and vomiting every day for 3 months straight, all while having an infected stomach, of course. Leaving the house, meeting clients, tattooing, and pretending like everything was fine took all of my energy, and because I didn't take a proper break and got enough rest, my body took a break for me. So I made the hard decision to stop tattooing, even if it's just for the moment, and focus on my YouTube and art business again. Sometimes I get the occasional "you should try harder" or "you don't look autistic," because I guess I've gotten so good at masking my traits to a point where people pretend my struggles don't exist and get offended if I speak up, or just straight up don't believe me in the first place. I also have a hard time trusting new people because I expect everyone to abandon me. I grew up thinking that I struggled because I was stupid, weak, unlovable, annoying. But each day I'm learning more about myself and my disability, and I hope to maybe help some of you too. I'm sure I forgot a lot of traits, but I hope you got a bigger picture of what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis and how it impacts my artistic journey. My next goal now is to start therapy again, to learn even more about myself, and I also thought about opening my Etsy shop one last time before building my own website to clear out my inventory, so let me know if you're interested in that. Thank you so much for watching. Let's connect in the comments and take care of each other in these turbulent times, and I'll see you next time. Bye!